Welcome everyone to this evening's discussion around AI ethics. We have got amazing guests. We have T. Scott Clendaniel joining us from the States. We also have got Stefania Pecore also joining us from Canada. I believe you're in Montreal right now.
Yeah.
So thank you. I'm going to tell you a couple words about AI Future Leaders before I introduce the speakers properly. So we are an AI education company focused around AI education, training, and curriculum solutions. We can help you align your AI curriculum from K-12 to university, and we can work with you to develop that program, deliver education for your institution, for your teachers, and also work with you on that AI policy and the governance side of things. We also have got an event coming up on October 9. As you know, October is Cybersecurity Month. We have got amazing speakers joining us on October 9 from Microsoft, from Black Swan, from Home Trust, and M&P Digital, where we are going to be tackling that topic of AI and cybersecurity. It's going to be lots of fun, so do register. We also have got a workshop coming up for teachers and educators. To get this workshop for free, you can send us a note at that email address right there, and we're going to send you a coupon code to join us for free. So do register. That's a very amazing 1-hour workshop for those that are in education. So our speakers for today, we have got two amazing speakers. We have got Scott Clendaniel from, you just mentioned Maryland, I heard, right?
Living in Maryland, working for University of Pennsylvania, yes.
Very nice. You also were a consultant across many companies from places such as, and you also worked for Gartner.
Yes.
And NVIDIA, and consulted Ritz-Carlton, Mercedes, and even the Olympic Committee, which sounds so cool. We also have
it's the only way I could get associated with the Olympics, because you can tell from my physique that that was my only shot.
Yeah, for sure. We also have got Stefania, who is now in Montreal. So Stefania is working with UNESCO. She's an AI expert and an advocate for women in technology. She is actually, you have your PhD from Italy, right?
PhD is from France.
Oh, from France.
Yeah.
But did you actually live in Italy?
So yeah, I'm Italian, and I did my bachelor there, and then I went to France for master and PhD, and then postdoc in Canada, and that's why today I'm in Canada.
Oh, that explains the whole Montreal and being able to speak French.
Exactly.
So yeah, that is amazing. So AI ethics, which is why we are here today. Why should we care? AI ethics, it's about making sure that AI serves humanity safely, fairly, and transparently. It's all about building those safe AI applications. But who is accountable when AI fails? And how can we make sure that we balance out this innovation with safety? Also, maybe there are certain use cases that should be off limits. For example, letting AI decide who gets, insurance coverage and who doesn't, or letting AI decide who gets into university or doesn't. So these choices, unfortunately, are now being done by AI. So to kick it up, I'm gonna ask you a couple questions for today. So how do we make sure that we build safe and ethical AI? What does this even mean, safety by design, and can it even be done?
I'm going to take that one. And I'm going to take a real world case study. What will we do if we discovered that artificial intelligence failures were killing people? I mean, literally like killing people dead.
Mm-hmm.
And it was already happening right now. What will we do as an industry? Well, see, the problem with that scenario is the fact that it is happening now. If you assume that autonomous vehicles are being driven by AI, and when they fail, they can end up in fatal accidents, we are already beyond the point where we should be making the decisions about is AI allowed to be in situations where it controls outcomes, where life or death are at stake. And take that one step further, a lot of people went into software development not thinking that lives would literally be at stake based on decisions they made. So if someone is a programmer and makes a mistake with their artificial intelligence implementation, and it goes into the autonomous vehicles and it ends up killing somebody, is that person potentially liable for manslaughter? Now, I don't think so. But the point I'm trying to make is the horse left the barn on these issues a long time ago. And in today's world, we've now decided that artificial intelligence covers pretty much everything. It covers all sorts of machine learning algorithms and all that type of thing. So if we're trying to figure out if they should be making banking decisions, well, that should have been figured out from the 1950s, because that's when we started doing automated decisions. If we're trying to figure out whether someone was qualified for an insurance decision, that followed pretty closely behind. So I think one of the things we have to be really careful of is to consider AI this thing that's out there, or this technology that's coming, or that type of thing. That's just not true. It's been in place for a long time. So as we're having these discussions, I think it's really important to say, these are not decisions we're making about something yet to come. It's decisions that probably should have been made about 70 years ago. So we are way behind the curve. So I just wanted to point that out as we kick off the discussion.
Those are good points.
Yeah. It's interesting because the autonomous vehicle is one of the examples that I usually do with my students. Basically, I give them some examples, like 2 examples, and I just ask, okay, what is the right choice to make here? And it's interesting because for the first example, they are like very sure. They will say, okay, it's I will do the right one. No, I will do the left one. And then they start to fight. It's like, it's not right. Why we should let the vehicle make so many, I don't know, pets dying? And the other will say, yeah, but in the other car, if we choose that one, there will be, I don't know, old people dying. So why? And it's a beautiful example to say that ethics is not something easy, and probably we will not, like, it's not easy to have the right choice. And at the same time, it's true. Right now, we are finally talking about ethics, about responsible AI, about fairness, but it's kind of too late because everything is out there. And honestly, I always cite this thing because it's really inside me. I remember when OpenAI was just asking to researchers to try their tools and say what do you think about that as researchers? And it was very okay, I mean, there are experts, they can say what they like, what they don't like. They can also talk about ethical issue. And then at some point we had all those tools out there for everybody. And they are not even educated on how to use them, what are the risks, what are the mitigation. It's incredible. Like, I see so many innocent minds that think about, like they don't even think about the risk. It doesn't exist. It's just a tool. And that's, for me, that's the big issue. It's, hi, Kat. It's, sorry.
I brought in an expert to help us out with this
Yeah.
deep discussion, you know, because when in doubt, you pull in a cat.
It's true. It's true. So yeah, I think basically the good part of this conversation is that you don't need to be an expert, because we are all responsible AI. We all need to hear our voices. And again, there is not a right choice to do, but at least we can talk about it. We can raise the awareness and avoid to live in the autopilot mode where we have the tool, we use it, and that's it.
So we have got several lawsuits happening right now. Some against OpenAI by the parents of a 16-year-old who died by suicide, Adam Rene. The parents are suing OpenAI and Sam Altman for son's months-long interactions with ChatGPT. And this where the safety piece that we just mentioned is very important, because those conversations contributed to a suicide of a teenager. Now we can, as AI experts, we can say, well, the guardrails failed because the conversation became long, the chat window, the tokens. You can start talking about what are the mechanisms there, but the family and the child impacted, essentially. And this is a real case, and there's actually a couple other similar cases out there. So in this particular case, the chatbot, in this case, a GPT 4.0 model, provided even instructions and normalized the suicidal ideation that this teen was going through, and even helped draft a suicide note. It's a case that's now discussed in the news. A similar one was filed against character.ai. That chatbot also encouraged self-harm, and it also is believed was contributing to a suicide. Now, I have seen, even with my own kids, I have a teen who has been chit-chatting with ChatGPT. And ChatGPT told my kid and which shoes to buy for her sports, right? And apparently, after wearing these shoes, which were not a good fit for her and not the right thing for her, and gave her damage, right? And after some time, then my kid comes and say, oh, get me those cushions and those gels to make the shoes softer, which I did. But then I found her conversations with the chatbot. And I realized that, and I asked her, why are you listening to an AI tool, right? And there's many kids out there and teens and adults who trust it. Well, it's AI. It must know which is the best brand of the shoes, which is the best thing for me. And I asked, well, don't you listen to your own body? I mean, if it's giving you blisters, maybe you stop. But no, but AI kept telling me to do this. So kids across the world are using AI. I know parents out there, there's many research papers out there and studies. Parents now, they don't realize the risks involved with these technologies. And there are many other tools, not just ChatGPT, out there where they put this AI in the hands of teens and kids that are using it without any education, without understanding the risks. And yes, it can give you harmful information. It is not always possible to lock it down and make it fully child-proof, or to put those guardrails, as we are seeing now. OpenAI is attempting to do this. There's also hunger strikes that are happening, trying to lock down this AI race towards artificial general intelligence. Activists are actually going on a hunger strike in front of AI companies such as Anthropic, and DeepMind. And they're demanding this lockdown. But is it possible? Is it even possible to prevent this race towards AGI? And some are claiming we should treat it just like you would any weapon out there, even nuclear weapons. So.
Well, I'm a lot less concerned about AGI. Let's take what I think is the easiest one first for several reasons. Number one, I'm a lot less worried about sentient machines doing evil deeds than I am evil human beings taking tools and performing evil actions with them. So if you put your average advanced LLM in the hands of a bad actor or actress, you can have monumentally bad outcomes. And so that's the first piece on there. Second piece is AGI always makes me laugh a little bit in that we're, as of last year, still having difficulty counting the number of R's in strawberry. So when we think about these systems that are going to take over the world and make all these decisions for us, I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding about what artificial intelligence is. And if you want to start a good bar fight among statisticians or computer scientists, and who doesn't like to see a bar fight? No, just kidding. Ask them to define intelligence. Just come up with a straight answer on what intelligence is. Oh, well, it's knowledge. Okay, so is a library intelligent? Because it has no, that's not. No, that's not what I mean. Oh, well, then maybe is a university as a whole an intelligence system? Should we ban universities because they could teach people how to do the chemistry and how to make No, that's not what I'm talking about. And you have a very hard time even getting basic definitions together. AGI is always the very cool thing that we're going to have, and it's always 5 years off. A lot like autonomous vehicles. It's always, in 5 years, it's going to happen. And our friend Elon has been saying that since 2016. AGI always strikes me as a bit odd in that if you have a system that is able to control weapons, and that's all it can do, that could create a lot of damage. It doesn't have anything to do with AGI. It's just a system that can control weapons.
Yep.
AGI itself seems ridiculously far off when you actually talk to the experts who are trying to do it. The optimists are always saying, oh, it's coming, but it never quite shows up. But the technology we have right now has some real dangers that we need to rein in. So I feel bad for the activists because they think they're attacking the wrong problem. We need to control what type of systems are allowed to control what type of assets. So human in the loop for high-risk systems is always a good idea, whether you're talking about medicine, whether you're talking about making sure that a driver in a semi-autonomous vehicle is still paying attention, whether you're dealing with a weapon system, anything that has sufficiently high risk. I'm a big believer of human in the loop. Whether it's AGI or not AGI, since we can't even define intelligence, might not be the right argument. I think what we want to be more concerned about is what type of management system and who are the players involved with high, potentially risky assets. I think that's a much bigger concern. In terms of the LLMs, when you're talking about the ideation, it's a difficult topic. The fact that a teenager or several teenagers have taken their own lives is beyond horrific. And I am not going to do anything to minimize the horror of that. I was really surprised when Harvard Business Review released their study in May, I think it was. The number 1 use for LLMs right now is human companionship. And that is the #1 use case right now. It isn't weapon systems. It isn't controlling credit decisions. It's human relationship and substitutes. I don't think that's really what we thought was going to happen. I don't know how you can put enough guardrails in to prevent a system from being misused if you're going to allow it to have virtual conversations. Do you put an age limit on it? We don't even have an age limit on social media in most states. And that has been proven to have several suicidal outcomes, including where are we going to block that? This is really tricky, but I don't know how you're going to allow a system to have conversations and prevent it from being misused in a way that has some really horrible outcomes.
Yeah, I think it's a very complex challenge because it's not only AI itself, LLMs, it's not only how we can prevent the misuse, it's a big challenge that involves also society in general, and again, education. Like, the challenge that I see is why a human, no matter what is the age, think that writing to a chatbot is better than have a conversation with another human. Why they feel more comfortable in doing that? Where is the error here? Why we prefer to talk to the data points instead of humans? It's not something that you can really, I think, challenge with guardrails. For sure, we can do better. It's the other part will say, okay, if we do better, we will be inside the censorship because we cannot do what we want. So I think that's something, and again, it's something also related to education, because I see a lot of people saying, yeah, I mean, I have a problem with my friend. I will ask ChatGPT, what should I do? And it's like, yeah, but you know that, like, the reply that you receive is not something that is from experience or sentiment or feelings. Is data out there. So again, if we should probably train more, like from the first year of school, people to make sure that they can understand what they're doing. Maybe we should also start thinking about what we can do as a society to avoid people talking with chatbot when they have personal problem. What we can do as humans. And yeah, it's really concerning because today, again, we have those powerful tools that can be used by like everyone. And when I think about also misuse of AI tools, is the easiness of using tools online to generate fake news, which again can create a lot of issue when you are at school, but also outside school when you are an adult. And again, what we are doing about those. And I'm also I'm always struggling. It's an AI problem. It's a tool problem. Every tool can be misused, but it's also the person behind that. Maybe we need to do something about that.
There's bad actors that can now seriously manipulate the news, and there's lots of fake news. And some of the questions that are arising now: can democracy survive when you have got bad actors? When AI can be used to manipulate the truth, it can be used to portray the truth, or it can create its own truth, to be honest. It can create anything from videos, images. There's fake images of Trump floating around and other officials out there. And it's hard to tell, honestly. It's very good at writing articles. And on the point of how do we make sure And how, and you are correct, there are many studies that are coming out, and the number one use is for personal use, just for companionship, for advice. I have got friends saying, well, I ask it anything from how to make a recipe to how should I respond to my boss. Some people use it for consultation, for just about anything out there. And to make sure that we are using this properly, governments, China, the US, and others are now going to make AI education mandatory as early as grade 1, because kids become adults who don't know how to use this technology, and there is this trust that AI is some sort of magical thing that kind of knows you because it's artificial intelligence and it must understand or know, and it's a safe space. You can say anything to ChatGPT, and it's going
Interesting
to,
choice of words.
Yeah.
Safe.
It's unfortunately perceived as a safe thing,
Absolutely.
especially among teens. So young individuals are using it for advice, for anything along that nature. Older individuals, some are actually missing the point and still using it like Google to research information, not realizing that you can have hallucination, you can have bad information, misinformation, not realizing that large language models and AI tools, they are probabilistic. They're not deterministic. And they're designed like that by design. And it's very difficult to put those guardrails and those guidelines. Now, I have a question to you regarding AI in regulated industries versus unregulated industries, or even at home. These days, even somebody at home can get access to large language models. You can build applications and you can do just about anything, to be honest. Just about anything. Now, if you're in a large company, regulated, maybe a healthcare setting or a financial industry such as a bank, you would have that compliance department, that AI governance department. You will have those, legal, information security. You're going to have lots of guardrails. But let's say you're not in such a company. Let's say you do not have those regulations on you, or you're in a country that has not yet adopted those regulations. And that is actually most of the world out there. So how can we make sure that these systems are regulated? And is it even possible?
I'm going to jump in on that one. I'm not sure that regulation is going to fix it. I'm not anti-regulation, so let me start with that. So I'm not one of these people who says, no, you can't interfere with the free market. No, I'm not one of those people. I think there's a limit on how much regulation is going to be able to do, because if I sit with my computer and now that I can download my own LLM and build on my own system, I can do all kinds of bizarre things on my own without it being able to be controlled by one of the large players. So if I go to Hugging Face and create my own system on my own laptop, it's going to be hard to regulate what these types of systems are going to do. In terms of regulated versus non-regulated, I spent about 2/3 of my life in regulated industry and about 1/3 outside. And my net conclusion is that regulated industries are very happy with themselves, that they have these regulations. How effective those regulations are in actually protecting consumers, better than not having them, yes. How much actual protection they get versus the perception of how much protection they get is, I think, questionable. I think also part of the problem with regulation is who's doing the regulating, and do they have the understanding of how to do the regulation? So for example, in the United States, at least up until at least a few years ago, unless you had a logistic regression as your model or a traditional scorecard to determine your credit criteria, you were in deep trouble and you could not use anything else. because you could not explain it. You were never allowed to use anything. You couldn't even use a random forest to do a credit decision because you couldn't easily explain it to a regulator. Does that really protect a person better than logistic? But they decided that that was the way they were going to do it. So if we can create regulation that protects people, great. I think you need to have some set of rules for any type of game or sport to be able to have competition. I'm not sure that the regulated versus unregulated industry is really helping. If you see all of the kerfuffle that happened within pharmaceuticals with jacking up prices and allowing very questionable pharmaceuticals to get passed, and I do not want to get into politics here, but let us just say that many of the regulatory bodies in the United States have taken a substantially different direction, right or wrong, good or bad, up or down. So regulated versus unregulated is really starting to mean something very different. Are we going to allow those regulations to change every time the political season changes or whoever the political party's in? We were supposed to have all of these criteria and guardrails in place for genetics. And then we had the gentleman in China who went out with CRISPR and created the 2 babies with the HIV spliced protection gene that went against all the policies. So if we can come up with the right type of regulation, fantastic. I think we need to be careful in thinking that that's going to fix it.
Yeah, I think honestly, regulation can help. At the same time, the problem is that, as you said, regulation, however, are created by humans in
those pesky
different
humans.
Contexts.
It's not the computers that are the problems; it's the people.
Exactly. So they're created for inside some context, and I mean, no, there will be always politics behind. There will be always like any difference that can exist out there when we talk about regional differences. The other thing that I'm worried about is that when we talk about regulation, they should be seen as a guide, but they like the fact that there is a regulation should not be the excuse to not think about what you're doing. And again, it's a way to make sure that, like, if we have challenges in AI, yeah, for sure, we should have a regulation. But again, we are the ones responsible. We should not wait for a regulation to make sure that we do think in a way, at least thinking about not harming other people, right? Honestly, my hope is that at least one day we will be able to define some principles, some guidelines that are the same, not similar, the same globally. If we can at least reach that point, I will be more than happy. I think it's doable, at least for the general, like the hyper classes. Then if we go into the specification, it might be a little harder, again, for the differences that we have. But yeah, I don't think the regulation will solve the challenges that we have right now.
Yeah, we also have got some interesting questions here in the chat room. So how can smaller businesses and organizations, most with only basic IT support, no in-house AI expertise, limited budgets, realistically address the bias transparency in the AI tools they already use? And what should be the risks and what should they focus on?
Oh, pick me.
Sure, sure.
One of the things that I would recommend, and one of the things that I've recommended in the past is don't try and do it all yourself. So there are several AI ethics organizations. There are several organizations out there that help small businesses. Don't try and go out and do this all by yourself. There, you can look at the policies that are put out by UNESCO. You can look at the policies that are put out by Stanford University. You can put out the policies by several and use that as your starting point rather than trying to figure out everything out by yourself. I'm part of the Accountable AI initiative at Wharton. That's another place you can look. But trying to figure out all of this by yourself on a limited budget is really hard. In answer to the other part of your question, if it's all right with Alina, I will check with her. I actually have some suggestions on what to do from the Gen AI perspective in terms of limiting bias in terms of how to control prompt engineering to help that quite a bit, to help cut down on bias and hallucinations. They're just my recommendations. They're not part of the official organization. It's just me. So, you can burn them or ignore them or whatever. But there are definitely steps you can take, even as a small business on a limited
budget. You can research, for sure. You can research. Let's say you have limited funds, because experts and AI ethics consultants it does sound a bit expensive, but you can research. And even if you're working with tools from large organizations, such as even Microsoft tools or Azure, right? You can get Azure, you can get AWS, you can get that. You need to read the fine print. What exactly is going to happen with your data? What is happening when you're using those APIs, for example, and what you are putting in there. Also, your use cases. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And lots of companies out there are attempting to create AI that is, for example, customer facing, such as chatbots for customers, but it sometimes backfires, such as the case with Air Canada. They also got sued, unfortunately, last year, because their AI chatbot was customer facing. It didn't have all the context, and it spit out wrong information where the customer ended up not getting that amazing deal. And they ended up suing as a result. So that human in the loop is important. I do know that many companies are doing these chatbots, but internally, where the risks are maybe not as high as opposed to putting something customer facing, and really carefully selecting those use cases.
We've also got a question from Vidi. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Please forgive me if I slaughtered it. About regulations differ between countries. Oh, awesome. Excellent question. My experience has been you have to go with, instead of the lowest common denominator, the highest common denominator. You have to go with basically the highest level of ethical standard, which at the moment, I guess, is going to be the EU based on what I've seen at the moment. If you have others you recommend, that's fine. Start with the most restrictive and work backwards, because you will get yourself in a world of trouble and risk if you start thinking, well, this set of regulations is easier to comply with, because you will find yourself, I guarantee, in a situation where someone has a subsidiary that uses another subsidiary who has a contractor who ends up in the country whose regulation you're trying to avoid. Right now, I would not suggest that. I would suggest going with the most comprehensive regulations for right now, or at least be aware of them.
Yeah, at the same time, and I mean, it's better to go in that way. Also, there is one part that is not discussed a lot, but there are some standards that are out there that at least can help in starting the thinking process of how you can build your process internally, being responsible and ethically. So there is the ISO 42001 to audit artificial intelligence systems. I usually bring that as an example because, again, when we talk about ethics, there is not right, wrong. every country does what they want, but at least we have a standard and we can start from there. And also to reply to the first question, because I think it's a connection, it's true that when you don't have a high budget, and especially when you don't have a department that take care about that, one thing that I will always suggest is to make sure that you, no matter what you're doing with the data or any tool that you have, to bring each stakeholder with you, to talk with them, to see what they have to say, to see if you can at least build a path where they can raise their concern. And again, it's also the thing of human in the loop. Make sure that you stop before using anything and think about, okay, how this might go wrong, and not being the only one thinking about that. Think as a group.
So we have got another question. Do we know if governments are actually being proactive about creating these regulations? And actually, we have got an interesting situation with Europe, with the AI Act in Europe and GDPR, a bit strict with the use of data and AI. Then you have got the US also tightening things up a bit. And then you've got Canada, where it's kind of not so like a law, it's more like a recommendation. If you read the regulations that we have got in Canada, they're more about recommendations. They're not exactly laws for doing these things. So it's a bit of this geopolitical situation that's happening out there. So in the last minute that we have got of this interesting discussion, I would like to ask the speakers, what would you like to tell our audience listening to this about AI ethics, about regulations, and how do we make sure that we build safe and ethical AI systems?
Stefania, I always go first, so now you're stuck with taking that first.
Sure.
Wait, can you repeat the question? I was just replying. I was just replying to the comment.
So how do we build safe and ethical AI systems, and what can you share with our audience?
How can we build that? I think it's something that I already said. To build the ethical and the responsible AI system, there is no right recipe, even if you ask to ChatGPT. I will say, try to make sure, again, since ethics is not something that it's just one entry point, try to make sure that whatever you are doing is not done only by you, but it's a group, that you ask people what they think about. You also try to explain why you need AI. You try to find what might go wrong. You find a way to ask those questions over time. So try to audit the system in some way, or the data that you are using. And especially try to build something where people with no expertise, or managers that are always in a rush, they can easily say when something is off for them, and try not to judge. It's a discussion. We should move all together.
Interesting perspective. What are you thinking?
Go with principles as opposed to 400-page documents that no one will read and that will be outdated by the time you hit send on the email. You need to be going for principles, things like transparency, things like fairness, things about auditability, things about if whatever action you took ended up on the international news as the top headline, how would you feel about that? Think about this as opposed to trying to play aikido with the regulations. Try and do what would be the most decent at the moment. I can tell you now that all of these arguments about, oh, you're going to slow down innovation in AI if you have ethics is a bunch of rubbish and is ridiculous. And I have no patience for it. I am not seeing anything that prevents you from being highly ethical and innovative at the same time. And I just will not accept any other answer.
So thank you. Thank you to our experts for joining us. I'm just going to say that to build safe and ethical AI, you need to have responsibility and accountability. Just to summarize, we heard transparency, maybe even courage. If it feels wrong, just don't do it. And it has to go transcend across developers, executives, humans as a society. We need to be held accountable for what we're building. And we have to balance this innovation that run towards, AI systems and that the economic side of things. So the future of AI, it's happening right now, and we are responsible to making sure that we are in a safe environment and our future is safe and something that we actually want to live in. So I want to thank you. It was nice to see you. It was nice. Thank you for everyone for coming. Thank you to our speakers, T. Scott, Clendaniel, Dr. Stefania. Your cat was lovely. I thank our audience.
He's still trying to contribute. He's still interested. He's involved.
Yeah. It was amazing to have everyone. And do check out our website, www.aifutureleaders.com. Thank you, everyone.